Hey, what's up, guys, and welcome back to another Real Madrid preview. This is the preview to Mallorca against Real Madrid. It's been a long time, guys. Look, I understand the international break, you know, some of it. Obviously, there were some World Cup qualifiers, um, but it's still boring. It really is. And again, I do understand that like I said, there are World Cup qualifiers, there are preparations for other teams, friendly games ahead of the World Cup. But I think we are obviously more invested and interested in club football, and it's just been really boring for the last 2 weeks. Don't get me wrong, there were some really dramatic um, and really interesting results that what happened in the last 2 weeks, right? Italy not going to another World Cup, which is going to be crazy. And we also saw teams like Bosnia making it through. I think Czech Republic made it through past Denmark, didn't they? Sweden made it through past Poland. So we had some really good games. I was also catching up on games like Brazil against France, because I think that was pretty much the biggest game that wasn't a club game. When you want to watch international games, at least let it be two top nations going head to head. And I thought France are just stacked, aren't they? And we have got a couple of French players ourselves: Mbappe, Chouameni, Camavinga. Um, and I think they will be, you know, by far the favourites for the World Cup. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to preview the Mallorca against Real Madrid game. Real Madrid are entering a phase of the season now where players are back. And I suppose the good thing about the international break is it gives that leeway for injured players to recover. And we have got pretty much everyone back, a full squad. Players are, thankfully safe and sound after the international break, and we don't have any new injuries picked up from the international duties. So thank God, we are safe. And now we enter a phase of the season where it's really important now, because the Champions League is next week. We've got La Liga back this weekend. Then we've got the Champions League midweek. Then we've got obviously La Liga again. Then the week after is the Champions League again. So essentially, whether you think La Liga is over or Real Madrid still has a chance, at least the Champions League is still on. Because if this was last season and we were talking about Real Madrid, you know, out of the Champions League, after we lost to Arsenal, um, it was really just, yeah, nothing to talk about really. But um, look, we'll talk about the Bayern Munich game, in a few days' time, and what sort of, you know, probability we have to win that game. But just the fact that we have a chance, I think, is something to look forward to. But Mallorca, you know, they are a side that have always frustrated the living hell out of Real Madrid. And one man stands above all. Is he still the club? Yes. Murici. Vidat Murici is seemingly, another version of Iago Aspas. Because this man just loves to score against the big boys, especially specifically Real Madrid. And if you're a betting man and you want to bet, I think you can just bet he will score in this game. And I wouldn't even be surprised if he does, because I don't know what his track record is, right? But he has scored in, I believe, every game I can think of. Every time, whether we win, we draw, or we lose to Mallorca, he has been scoring like crazy. So that is kind of scary, to be honest, thinking about it. But I mean, Mallorca are 18th. Mallorca are 18th. So if Real Madrid don't win this game, we have huge problems again. Because now there is no excuses. It is crunch time. The players are pretty much back. Everyone is back. What else is left if the players don't perform? What other excuses do they have in their locker if Real Madrid don't win against Mallorca? So I'm expecting Real Madrid to win. I'm not gonna say comfortably because I can never be sure with this team, but the bare minimum is to win. And I'm not dropping that standard. I think we have already dropped it from winning comfortably to winning, and any more, it's gonna be draw, it's gonna be lose, and you're gonna be accepting defeat. No, 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 no. That's not happening. It cannot happen. Win is the most important, and Real Madrid are still 4 points behind Barcelona with 9 games to go. And like I said, whether you think Real Madrid will win La Liga and will make a comeback is obviously up for debate. I personally don't believe that Barcelona will drop 4 points or more, and I don't see Real Madrid winning every game remaining, which includes El Clasico away. We did well to win the Madrid derby at home, but we've got bigger games like El Clasico away that is a different, kind of worms, basically. So I am expecting Real Madrid to not be able to win this league title, but anything could happen. Anything could still happen, and we just need to hope that from now until our Clasico, we can overturn the 4 point deficit to hopefully a bit closer, because hoping that we overtake them fully is a bit tough. But if we are 1 point off or level on points by El Clasico, it goes into match day 35, I believe, with a lot on the line, a lot of stake. And the last time, an El Clasico really truly meant, so much in terms of the title race, it's been a while. So I think we have to do everything we can from now until then to put the pressure on. And Barcelona's fixtures are alright, but they also, just lost Rafinha to injury, which is why I said, we are a bit lucky that we came away from this international break without any major scares. Although Vini Jr. did pick up a bit of a knock, but I think he should be alright. But let's run through the game. So we've got Mallorca away, we've got Girona at home, we've got Alaves at home, Real Betis away, and Espanyol away. All 5 games before El Clasico, and then it's Real Oviedo at home, Sevilla away, Athletic Club at home. So I look at the remaining fixtures, and the one game I'm looking at that I would be, scared is Barcelona away. And I don't mean scared because I'm scared of, Barcelona. I'm scared of Real Madrid because, this team, you just don't know what you're going to get. But apart from that, every other game, excluding the Bayern Munich games because we don't count that, but even those games I expect Real Madrid to win. But every La Liga game, I expect Real Madrid to win. But expectations versus reality are very different. So if Real Madrid don't, then yeah, the players are at it again. So look, I don't want to be negative. I'm just gonna say it. I hope this team can bring home something this season because, we didn't win the Supercopa. We're not in the Copa del Rey anymore, and we have only got La Liga or Champions League to sort of fight for. I would say La Liga in theory should be easier because I think, like I said, the remaining 7 to 8 games are, what you would expect Real Madrid to win, including El Clasico, really, to be honest. But, that is the one game that you look at and think Real Madrid have to go and perform. But every other game, expect Real Madrid to win. In the Champions League, we've got Bayern Munich. And then afterwards, you could play PSG, you could play Liverpool, but it's still going to be tough. And then in the other bracket, you could play in the final Arsenal or Barcelona again. So, either ways, the road in La Liga is obviously gonna be easier than in the Champions League. So, but I'm not gonna say I want La Liga and not the Champions League. I want both. But in theory, La Liga should be easier to win, if you know what I'm saying. But let's talk about Mallorca a little bit, and their news. So, in terms of injury news, I don't know how updated this is, but apparently they have got Kumbula, Bergstrom, Salas, um, Jan Vegeli, Asano, and Mojica. Apparently they're all injured. I don't know how many of them are back, but this is somewhat somewhat updated. And for Real Madrid, I believe that Militao is back, but I don't think he will be risked. But he could be in the squad. And as well as that, Mendy and Rodrigo are still yet to train on the grass, so they're still inside the facilities. And I think Vinny Jr. as well, but I think he is not that serious, so I think he should be fit to play. But just injury news wise, I think, if I'm not wrong, Mendy, Rodrigo are out, and Militao should be back in the squad list, but not starting. Vinny Jr. should start. That is pretty much all we have to think about for injury/team news. In terms of Mallorca's home form, they beat Espanyol in the last home game. They lost to Real Sociedad. Before that, they lost to Real Betis. They smashed Sevilla, and they beat Athletic Club. So there are 3 wins in their last 5 home games, but they are still 18th, which is crazy because I look at their home form, right, and it's pretty good, right? They, before those 5 games, they lost to Girona. Okay, that's not that great. They beat Elche. They drew with Osasuna. They beat Getafe. It's their away form that's atrocious because at home they're at least drawing or winning games, but they're somehow in 18th, which is bizarre because they have actually played pretty well, at least in the last couple of games. But at home, they are a different team. They are a better team. And I am a little bit worried in the sense that, Real Madrid might just, give them charity and pity point, or maybe even, pity 3 points to them. But this is Real Madrid, and we have to go there and win. And it doesn't matter if they're better at home or not. I expect Real Madrid to win. I think that's all I can really say, because I'm not gonna say Mallorca are good at home, so Real Madrid are gonna lose. I'm not gonna say that, because the standard at Real Madrid is still to win home or away, and we've dropped too many points both at home, but especially away from home, to teams that are struggling. And I think enough is enough. We need to get serious now. Like I said, it's that time of the year to lock in, and I think we will. At least I hope. But starting 11, actually, let's run through a bit of players for Mallorca. So like I said, Murici, he is crazy. They've got Pablo Torre, ex-Barcelona. They've got Danny Rodriguez, Pablo Maffeo. We're not going to talk about him. Yeah, they've got some really good players. Leo Roman, I believe, right? Leo Roman, we have played against him before, and I remember the last time we played him, or was it last season? I don't remember, but he was crazy, bro. He made like a crazy amount of saves. Please, Leo, just chill out. But score, not score predictions yet. Starting 11. Starting 11. So this is pretty much an unchanged 11 from what I predicted against Atletico Madrid. Because although players are back, I still don't see who I would change. out of these players. So Courtois is still out as well. So Courtois, Rodrigo, and Mendy are still out. Sorry, I forgot about that earlier. But Courtois is still out. I don't think he'll be back for the Bayern Munich games, which is this week and next week. He might be back the week after, or maybe the week after that. But I don't think he'll be back for the Champions League quarterfinals. But if he's not, we've got a very good Courtois 2.0 in Andre Lunin, and I'm very pleased with him. Great player, great goalkeeper. That's perfect. The back four, I've gone Carreras at left back because I think he's back now. I think he should start. And we had to go through a period where both Carreras and Mendy were injured, and we had to play Fran Garcia. And he is a player, Fran Garcia, who will run, who will sweat, who will fight for the badge. But quality-wise, I don't think he's good enough. And I'll talk more about him when it comes to the summer. And I want to make a video about who Real Madrid should buy and sell for next season. But Fran Garcia for me is a sell. And he's not someone I want to look to rely on longer term. And as soon as we have Carreras or Mendy fit, they start. And I won't be surprised if Fran Garcia starts, because we don't want to risk it with Carreras, and we want him to be fully fit for the Bayern Munich game. I get it. But it's not the way I want to go with it. I want to win such games, and maybe with Fran Garcia we still win. But still, give yourself the better opportunity and chance to win the games, basically. I've got Dean Huijsen and Rudiger. I think, like I said, Militao should not be starting this game because I don't think he's fully fit yet. I think even if he is, would you start him for the Bayern Munich game instead? Maybe. And Raul Asensio could start actually. He's back now. So we could see him in the mix. And then again, Trent or Carvajal is a 50-50. I've gone Trent because we want to create more, opportunities going forward. And I think it makes more sense to start Trent. He didn't start the last game because of disciplinary reasons. I think he would have obviously worked on that and, should be back in the starting 11 soon. The midfield, I have gone Aurélien Tchouaméni in the middle. Arguably our best midfielder consistently wise this season. He went through a period where he was pretty much the man of the match every game. The Benfica game, and then the La Liga game after, I forgot which game it was. And then in the Champions League again. Afterwards, the second leg against Benfica, I believe. But there were a couple of weeks where he was just unstoppable. He was scoring goals, he was creating, he was getting forward. He was, the gel in the midfield. And he is, like I said, the most important part to this midfield out of everyone. And you could say Fede Valverde is, that's fair. But I think that if you take away the holding midfielder spot, it's far more dangerous than you take away Fede Valverde. I think Fede Valverde's role can be replaced rather than Tchouaméni's, if you get what I mean. But anyways, Tchouaméni is in there. I have gone with Arda Güler and Thiago Pitash next to him in absolutely no sense whatsoever. I don't know if Xabi Alonso, not Xabi Alonso, what am I talking about? He's gone. My head's gone as well. Man, do I really miss Xabi Alonso so much that I'm thinking about him? Anyways, I don't know that if Arbeloa, oh my god, I don't know that if Arbeloa is going to start Bellingham ahead of Goulet, or Camavinga ahead of Pitac. But either ways, because it's a guessing game, I have no idea what sort of squad we're gonna have in terms of the starting 11. I don't know. It's a preview, it's a prediction. I would probably guess it's Goulet and Pitac, but who knows. And then in the attack, I've gone Vini Jr. and Mbappe. And Fede Valverde isn't a right winger, a proper right winger, but he, I think, if Real Madrid want to maximize everything, I think we need someone like Fede Valverde on the right hand side of the midfield / attack, and I think it will make a lot of sense. We saw it before. I think it was the 22-23 season when he was playing on the right a couple of times, and we didn't really stick with it too much because then we still had the likes of Marco Asensio. I can't get my names right today, for God's sake. We still had Marco Asensio there. We had Rodrigo still, not injured. But now that we don't have Rodrigo, and our next best options are Brahim Diaz and Masantuono, who are good players, but I don't think they can deliver week in, week out at the highest level. I think we have to put someone into midfield and hope that Fede Valverde can go out to the right hand side of the attack and help out the attack. That being said, in the midfield you've got more options now. You can play Camavinga, Pitaj, Bellingham, Goulet. Yeah, you've got more options in the midfield, and it's pretty decent. But this would be my starting 11. Like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if Arbeloa, rotated a bit ahead of the Champions League game. So, Fran Garcia starting, Raul Asensio starting, Carvajal starting, maybe Brahim Diaz starting. I wouldn't be surprised if he started some of these players. That's fair enough. But it's so tough to predict because, you're coming back from an international break. Players are back. Some players might be fit. Some players might not be fit. And we don't really know. So we have to sort of guess, basically. And it's tough. So I'm going to assume this is the starting 11. To end off score predictions, I'm going to go Mallorca 1. Virat Murici 1. Real Madrid 2. I think it will be a close game. I don't think Real Madrid will dominate or control the game, but I think Real Madrid will get the job done against Mallorca. But let me know what your thoughts are down below. Hope you guys have enjoyed today's video. If you guys did, hit the button, subscribe to the channel on already, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.